Hi guys, as we continue theme 8, today we're going to have a look at irrigation and technology. In the last video, I introduced the chapter 2 and told you the various sources that were being used. Alright, so in irrigation and technology, at this time we see that expansion of agriculture was happening at a rapid pace. The state or the Mughal government was actually motivating people to get more and more land under cultivation as much as possible. We see that this expansion of agriculture was possible because there was a lot of land available. See, today if you suddenly think, oh, let's expand agriculture, it's going to be a little problematic because almost all the land has been used up. What you can do is increase the production by investing properly in the land, getting high yield variety seeds, better fertilizers, so on and so forth. But at that time you actually had a lot of land. So even if one land was not growing very good crop, you had a lot of other land where you could grow. There was also a lot of labor available at that time. Remember, a lot of people are living in villages. A lot of them will become pahikashtas, which means migrate to other areas looking for work. And there was always availability of labor. And this labor was also pretty cheap, which then also means there was mobility of peasants. Areas receiving more than 40 inches of rainfall cultivated rice. Now, as all of you have had a look in geography, and even if you may have not taken geography in the 11th and 12th, for all these years you've seen that you can't just end up growing any crop anywhere you feel like. The soil conditions have to be right, the amount of rainfall has to be right because different crops require different amount of water. Some, like rice, require a lot of water. So areas receiving more than 40 inches of rainfall cultivated rice, whereas other areas cultivated wheat and millet because wheat and millet don't need so much of water. Monsoon was used for irrigation. However, artificial irrigation was also provided by the state, which means new canals were dug up. Canals were known as Nahar or Nala, and the old canals were also repaired. A very famous example of a canal we have is Shah Nahar in Punjab. Various implements were used for cultivation: a wooden plough, a drill, and a narrow iron blade with a small wooden handle. This was known as a hoe or a hasiya, or a sickle, a small sickle. The various crops that were grown were, well, there were two main crops, of course, Kharif and Rabi, autumn and spring crops, or to make it just easier, you can say winter and summer crops, which means there were minimum of two crops per year. So two crops were known as do fasla. Do means two, fasla means fasal, so do fasla. Variety of crops were grown. For example, in Agra you had 39 varieties of rice. In Delhi you had 43 varieties of rice, and in Bengal you had 50 different types of rice being grown. It's understood that crops were not only grown for subsistence, which means they were not only grown for feeding the people in and around the capital. They were sent to faraway areas for trading. The crops were exported, and not only subsistence crops like wheat and pulses were grown. In fact, we have cash crops being grown. Cash crops were known as jins-e-kamil or perfect crops, which means they got a lot of money. Cash crops were like cotton in Deccan and sugarcane in Bengal, which means both subsistence and commercial cropping was being undertaken. During the 17th century, we see a lot of arrival of new crops from the New World, the United States of America. These crops were potatoes, chilies, tomatoes, papaya, and pineapple. Pay attention, why am I calling USA a New World? New World because when you have a look at European history, remember how the Europeans went and discovered the United States of America, right? Voyages were undertaken and they discovered the USA. And when history was written from that perspective, it was believed that Europe was the old world and America or USA was the new world. Because this was a very European-centric way of writing history. Okay. All right. The village community. In the village community, there were three main constituents. There were the cultivators, there was the panchayat, and there was the village headman, the mukaddam or mandal. Cultivators were people who were working on the lands, the poor peasants, farmers. Panchayat was a body of people. Panch means five, who were like they were doing everything. They were giving justice, making sure that social hierarchies were maintained, and making sure that people were doing the work they were supposed to do. A very famous story, if you may remember from Hindi, would be Premchand's Panch Parmeshwar. How the amount of respect the elders who were a part of the panchayat were given was as good as giving a lot of respect to God. The village headman was, or the head of the village, was known as Mukaddam or Mandal. Caste and the rural social setting. Cultivators were a heterogeneous group, which means heterogeneous means there was a lot of differences. These differences were, there was a caste hierarchy. In the earlier chapters, we've already had a look at how there's a lot of difference, not just in religion but also in caste, which means differences within a religion. Abundance of cultivable land was available, but certain castes were given menial tasks which resulted in their poverty. Now, this means it's not like people are becoming poor because they're lazy or they don't want to work. It's not like there's not enough land that everyone cannot work and grow food for themselves. The reason some people are forced into poverty is because certain higher castes do not let them participate in a better kind of labor, better kind of work. And that is the reason where once we were discussing in class something about caste hierarchies and Ambedkar and Gandhi, and how we see that although Gandhi says that you should respect these caste hierarchies, Ambedkar says the only way you can really respect them is by letting people do different kinds of work. Only then will it really make sense. So we see here that how caste hierarchy was maintained because certain lower castes were forced to do menial jobs. In this hierarchy, we also see that the lower castes were made to live outside of the villages. We saw when we were having a look at theme 4 with the emergence of Buddhism and Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. At that time, a lot of Chinese travelers had also come to India, and they write how these lowest of castes, the Dalits, were made to live outside the villages, and when they entered the villages, they had to sound a clapper or they had to make noise with something to make people aware that they were there, so that people would go inside their houses and not look at them or be near them and get polluted. So the same thing, of course, continued at this time also. The Muslim scavengers were known as Halal Khoran, and boatmen in Bihar, the people who gave other people rides across the river, who took care of these boats, the boatmen were known as Malazada. We of course see a direct correlation between caste and poverty because of what I just mentioned to you. Just a moment. Okay, the next subtopic is panchayats and headmen. Panchayat was an assembly of village elders Alright, I'll cover this subtopic in the next video.